So the flavors, where do they come from? So late harvest wine can be obtained, kind of two different methods. Whether we dry the grapes we let the grapes dry on the vine, or we pick up the grapes at harvest and then we dry them outside, we pick them and then we take them to a different facility to dry them. So really, as a scientist, it's about dehydration, about dehydrating the berries so that they concentrate in sugar and flavors. And that's really what late harvest is really about, whether the dehydration happens on the vine or off the vine. So the most common, I don't know if it's the most common, but what we know about late harvest is, regular wines are harvested at a certain date, and then the winemakers decide to keep a lot of grapes to ripen a little bit more, to have a different style of wine. So they will let the grapes dry on the vine, and to be successful, it has to be in an area that is, of course, very sunny, very dry, and very aerated. So sun and wind are the two conditions that are needed to have a successful drying process on the vine. Otherwise, as we know, rot will come in, the fungus will come in, and they are not always the noble rot. So there can be the gray mold, and then your harvest is gone. So late harvest wines, when they are very well made, they are made in regions that are very dry in the fall, and wind is very important. Noble rot, that's a different mechanism. We let the grapes dry on the vine, and we let them infected by this fungus called Botrytis cinerea. Looks ugly, it's gray, it's hairy a little bit, but that's what we call in French the pourriture noble, noble rot. It not only dehydrates the berry, but there are some biochemical transformation in the berry that will affect the flavor and the sensations that we are going to experience in the wine. And then when it's possible, when the winters are very cold, like in Canada, the vintners are very patient, and they let the grapes hang on the vine until they are frozen, and then they can pick up the grapes and press them to make ice wine. So really the principle is to find a process to dehydrate the berries so that the flavors and the sweetness are concentrated by just removing the water one way or the other. Of the vine, traditionally people will, spread the grapes on the ground under the sun, and that's also a way that people would do raisins as well. This is a picture of Muscat grapes, but here it's another process, which is to lay the grape cluster on clay, on straw and clay, in a very aerated environment so that they can dry. And here as well, it's not on the vine, but it's very important to control the humidity so that the clusters don't get affected by mold. So that's why it's very aerated, probably in a windy environment as well, to let naturally the grapes dry. So it's a picture from Mulino in South Africa. So what type of flavors can we expect? If we think about late harvest, whether it's a late harvest or to ice wine, when they dry on the vine, it's a concentration of varietal aromas definitely sweetness as well, some viscosity, the mouthfeel will be a bit thicker. Definitely the aromas will be more concentrated, not specifically cooked, but more concentrated, more intense. The acidity, I guess it's a question of how the wine is made. It's always a balance, because when I think about ice wine or certain late harvest, they're never really cloying. Like, when you drink something very sweet, it can be very heavy and, sticky in your mouth, but the acidity balance that effect. So it can be more pleasant to drink, easier to swallow and appreciate. The botrytized wine, as I said, there is a transformation that happens due to the fungus in the berry. So the varietal aromas are still there, but they tend to be muted and transformed by the infection of the fungus. So we will still have some citrus fruits in the white wines, maybe some tree fruit like peaches and apricot, but then you can have other type of flavors like so apologize, these are chemical names, but the picture shows like caramel, toffee, or mushrooms, or even nutty flavors like in vin jaune, when the wines are a little bit with less oxygen, they develop this nutty, sometimes curry aroma as well. And honey is a characteristic as well of botrytis. And when I ask, our subscribers this week, what do you expect in terms of flavors in botrytis aroma? Some of those terms came. Honey came a lot, but also bee wax and orange marmalade. I was surprised, orange marmalade. How interesting. So we'll see if we perceive something today along those lines.